Hey, this has been a pretty fun year, and we are thrilled for one special thing. We've got the best listeners ever. Okay, thank you all so much for tuning in. I also want to personally thank Dr. Deneen for his profound and encyclopedic knowledge of history and some of the amazing things that he's come up with, and some of the let's face it, folks. Dr. Deneen is not the best technologist, but that's okay. We still love him. It is amazing to have a partner of his caliber. It is truly wonderful. We have different viewpoints, he and I love that we can disagree and maintain a strong, unbreakable bond of friendship and mutual respect. He's managed to tolerate my wacko, unusual ideas with grace and patience. On our team, we have a really special team now. Jonathan Weaver has joined us. Now, this guy brings just a real spice of life with this. He's contributed in many ways, especially in coming up with new and interesting ideas.
Yeah, it's been really great to work with this team. I'm thankful to both Dr. Weaver and Dr. Deneen for, letting me be a part of this. We've had some really kooky events. For one, we got some new hardware, right? Obviously to support the podcast. But before that, we had this crazy incident with recording where it sounded absolutely horrible, but it is hilarious. So I think we'll play a clip here. $1,000 in 22. Hopefully you guys have noticed an increase in quality since we have this new equipment. I think it's such an adventure to work on this podcast. I'm always finding out something new and exciting with every investigation.
If I may say so, Jonathan, thank you so much for being involved. You've been an invaluable asset in coming up with topics, particularly our wonderful discussion on the meanings of shoelace colors and on the life of the French criminal turned policeman Vidocq. You've given us a lot of contemporary ideas. Dr. Weaver and I are a little more senior in years, so you've given us the perspective of someone young and who's not an academic, but deeply loves learning and knowledge.
Yeah, Sean. I'm an old fart. I get you. Can't help it. My only other choice is dying. So, yeah, not ready for that. Thinking of funny things, I remember very clearly when Sean said to me, "Oh, we're going to run out of ideas. We won't have enough stuff to do." And, oh, my God, I tease him about that all the time, folks.
I must have been on something that day. We would need the Chinese army to do all of our ideas.
Yeah, remember what happened when you said, "I can't think of anything to do," and I said, "Well, what do you like, Sean?"
And I said, thinking of the craziest thing I could think of, lime Coke.
And I jumped on it. Like white on rice, I said, "Yeah, okay, that's what we'll do." And you said, "Nobody's going to want to hear that stuff." And I said, "We don't know. We haven't done the research yet." And
it turned out to be one of the best podcasts we have, looking at the invaluable role of soft drinks, the McDonald's effect, which is a philosophic idea promoting peace, and the idea that Pepsi at one time had one of the largest navies in the world. We just took that and ran with it, and it was a heck of a lot of fun and very valuable things to learn.
Indeed, in reviewing what we have accomplished in this past year, I'm pleased. I mean, yeah, okay, we could have done more perhaps, but we have explored over 30 plus topics. We've gotten over 3,000 views, and I'm really excited that we are going to be expanding in an incredible way. We're going to be having a website and some blogs, and we're going to be on several other platforms.
Don't forget Dr. Deneen's upcoming podcast following his research.
Oh, yeah. I'd almost forgotten about that. I'm in the process, folks, of expanding some historical research around the world. And when I do that, I'm going to take you all with me. It's going to be a modern version of that old show, You Are There. And I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, I think it'll be a hoot. And, what he's talking about when he says, take you with me, he's going to be doing this research and he's going to be a news reporter saying, hey, folks, I did this, I did that. Here's what I'm looking at now. And he'll keep you up to date. We'll probably have that on a different associated podcast. And I'm actually looking forward to that too. And, while we're on this little kick here, it would be a romper room no for us not to thank some of the people who have helped us so much, the voice actors and other people.
We've had some really wonderful people, just to mention a few of them. Lisa Eisenhower, Dawn McKenna Kehoe, Patrick Kehoe, my dear friends Hannah and Leslie Finelli, my siblings Ryan and Kelly McFay, Mary Gizmonde, Christine McConnell, my old mentor Karen Lynn Kloop, my beloved mother Diane McFay, Susan Spur, and my former student and now dear friend Olivier Georges.
And we would be absolutely remiss not to thank you, the people who listen to us and make this podcast possible.
We have covered a bunch of different topics, and no, I'm not going to go over every one of them. But some of them include Blackbeard, the pirate, profiles of dynamic leaders in the disability community, George Washington Carver, the Peanut Man. Didn't invent peanut butter, by the way. That was Kellogg, which, every time we do something, I learn so much, and it is amazing. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about this. We also did some things about Eleanor Roosevelt. When we're talking sometimes about the next guy, Benjamin Franklin, I often call him Benny, just because I'm a twit that way. But, we looked at the dalliances he had with a lot of aristocratic ladies in France, which enabled him to get into French high society, which enabled him to get money from France during the revolution, which we desperately needed. As we already mentioned, the soft drinks and Caesar Drake, which was one of Sean's great discoveries. He was sort of thinking about what to do, and I kind of irritatingly said, well, wheel your butt over to the oldest cemetery with a church associated with it that you can find. Look for the oldest tombstone, and he did.
It was a story about a former slave who became a hero of the American Revolution and fought for civil rights and inclusion in many ways. And he's one of the unsung heroes. He helped me to develop what we call boots on the ground history, which is historical research that does not take place in archives and libraries, but in the actual locations where events took place, and also through interacting with people, ordinary individuals who know something. We've had some really amazing applications of this philosophy. We had a wonderful podcast on the worldwide guises of our old friend Oscar de Grouch, who interviewed with a philosopher and the First Lady, Mrs. Peggy Arnold, Marjorie Post, the great businesswoman who took over her business when women couldn't even vote, and Elizabeth Graham integrating the New York streetcars and working on education reform in the 1840s. Two sets of bizarre laws, our Taiwanese friends using ice cream for propaganda, and my all-time favorite, the Spartan women.
Yeah, and we've done more than that too. Vlad Dracula, Salem witch trials, Winnie the Pooh, A.A. Milne. But I did want to mention something that we've just been having a real time with. We've got a podcast on Woodstock, the Woodstock Festival of 1969, which I'm sure people are somewhat familiar with, but they don't know the real facts. And I was there, so guess what? We decided to do that. And it was a lot of fun. And when we tried to get it posted on YouTube, they said, oh, no, you can't do that because it's music. Well, look, if there's a fair trade copyright issue here, which gives us the right to use pieces of music and other things like that, as long as they're credited correctly and as long as we're not using them as the fundamental part of the podcast. So we'll keep you informed. They're supposed to get back to us in 7 days, but hey, they want to take it to the mat. I guess we will. That's cool.
One of the things, if I may, Dr. Weaver, that's really fascinated me about this work, even though I've been involved in it, is the way we found out people from every conceivable background. We found multimillionaires and ordinary people at the same time, because history is not just made by generals and politicians. It's made every day. And we have so many wonderful other ideas coming up for this new year. We're going to do a wonderful podcast on the jongleurs, which are 12th century street musicians. We're going to have a discussion about deals with the devil, which does not mean what you think it means, friends, but you'll have to listen to it to find out what it does mean. We're also going to discuss our favorite philosopher, Diogenes the Cynic, a brilliant man who actually ate off the floor at public banquets.
He was totally a weird guy, too. We also plan on doing something on cults and serial killers, but it does seem like everyone tends to do those. And we want to specialize towards the truly strange and, the unsung icons of history. So we also have some research in the pipe, so to speak, on the history of bikinis. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure we'll have pictures for that. The financing of rebellious groups in World War I, and some truly surprising and maybe even horrific stories about pro-Nazi America pre-World War II.
I did not know anything about that, friends. I'm a historian with a doctorate, but that's one area I hadn't covered. So I'm learning a lot too.
And, as far as more current events go, because as Dr. Deneen said, history is happening all around us all the time. And, as far as more current events go, because as Dr. Deneen said, history is happening all around us all the time.
So you mean history is not just the past? You mean history is past, present, and has indications for the future?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is boots on the ground, too. That is part of that whole philosophy. Very, very important, if I may say so. And let's see, we also hope to do cults. We hope to do serial killers. I've been thinking about doing something on Hitler. Oh, yeah, it can get us in trouble because everyone will think we're praising him. We're not. He was an evil monster, but there's more to it than people know. We have a whole lot of things to go into. And, to me, this is an exploration that we have engaged in, but we want to encourage people to do their own research too. In a podcast, there is no way you're going to exhaustively cover anything, but we can give indications. And guess what? You can comment. You, our listeners, can comment. You can ask questions. We will respond.
Even make suggestions for possible topics you might like. We love that sort of stuff, folks. We want to hear from you.
And I've also been looking forwards to this series on some rather interesting dead guys. I've been sort of affectionately calling this the Dead Greek Chronicles because they're all ancient Greeks. And I don't just want to talk about the well-known philosophers, but I also want to mention some mathematicians and athletes of note as well.
The Dead Greek Chronicles. Wow.
What a wonderful name. If I could just also say, as a history professor, I've learned a lot about the link between a sound body and a sound mind. And I had the privilege of teaching some athletes a few years ago. And the stereotype is that they're all going to turn pro and then not good at anything but their sport. And I found creating a relaxed, team-based approach that built on their skill sets made the learning process more effective and more collective. I had a student who was so frustrated, he was seriously considering dropping out. And now, my friends, he's graduated with honors and is doing well in graduate school. I like to think that this approach had a small role to play in that.
I think a big role, absolutely. You know, we could go on in this way, but uh, one of the things that we wanted to do in this was to kind of, to give some teasers about future podcasts, and we've sort of done that. Not all. We have so many other ideas; it's incredible. But just kind of saying things that we wanted to do different or better or whatever. My own personal thing is, I just did it again. I say all the time. Gonna stop. I am gonna stop doing that somehow.
I have to work on not dropping the H's in certain words. I sound like Alfred Doolittle. And I means to go on sounded like, and Governor, I likes it. And that's
Yes, see them there in London Square, dropping H's everywhere, speaking English any way they'd like.
a little call out to Bernard Shaw there, friends.
I mean, I'd like to not say or anymore, but I prefer to be more realistic. And in light of that, I'd like to get better with the editing and the research. And being able to rigorously source my information would be a lot of use in this podcast, I think.
I'd definitely like to be able to help with the editing process instead of it being Dr. Weaver all the time.
I can always use an extra pair of hands and eyes, that's for sure.
I've also been trying to steer the podcast away from more traditional scripting and having a more conversational flow. And I'd like to get better at the implementation of that.
I mean, I think we have, scripting and acting out scenes has been wonderful and certainly has its place, but there's also a place for this more informal dialogue. And since you joined us, Jonathan, we've been able to do that quite well.
Well, we've got the team, we're on the beam, and, I think this is going to be a fantastic year, and I want to encourage you to join us. I hope that it inspires somebody out there to actually dig up information on their own and use that for their own benefit, because it is beneficial. You can either decide in your life to continually make the mistakes that everyone else has made, and you'll get blasé results at best. Or you can learn from those mistakes and do something better. That is what we are trying to do.
What you can also do, friends, is sometimes, in my case, if there's a difficulty coming on, I can identify with a figure in history, and I can say, well, if Jean Piaget or Eleanor Roosevelt or my playwriting idol Wendy Wasserstein did this or that in a situation, it will give me the courage and strength to keep going.
Yes, I agree with you, and I hope I can do a better job coming up with new ideas and new ways to edit and new things to do. One of the things that I will be doing at the urging of my compatriots here is I'm going to start composing a lot of the music that we use, because I'm tired of, having to play around with, oh, you can't use that. So since I have a degree in music, might as well.
I'm actually rather excited about that, folks. It's going to be really exciting to see how it all turns out.
Yeah. Well, I will do my best.
We all will. And you all, our listeners, will encourage us and challenge us as you have, and we will create wonderful things together.
All righty. Well, look, we could keep on talking for a couple more hours because we really enjoy it. It feels like we're really communicating with you, and that's wonderful. I hope everyone has a good new year, that you strive for the things you want to strive for. You live, not just survive, that you discover new things, and that you share them with us. Gosh, we'd like that.
More than we can say.
And hey, down at the bottom, there's a place where you can click on likes, and you can make comments, and you can share, and you can subscribe. Gosh, all those things would be like really cool. You might want to turn on the little reminder bell so that when new things come out, you can be reminded of that. So for now, I'm going to let you go. Bye-bye.
So long, folks.
See you.